So, when I was a little girl growing up with an alcoholic mother, I spent a lot of time alone. Mom made our life pretty isolated to accommodate her drinking, and so I got used to entertaining myself. I loved reading and writing. Writing was really cathartic for me, really healing, an escape. I could create a predictable world with happy endings. I loved those stories. I loved the characters with problems I could fix. I had so much predictability and stability when the world outside of what I created there was totally chaotic and unpredictable with mom's drinking. So I got used to that, and I remember even back then thinking that that was weird and abnormal because most of the kids I knew at school and in my family in the neighborhood were spending time with each other, playing video games and playing sports and goofing around together, and they didn't like to do solo activities like reading and writing the way that I did. So I remember being embarrassed and hiding that. I never talked about how much I loved reading and writing because I thought that that was weird and probably tied back to things being abnormal in the house as a whole. And so when I was a teenager, I totally stopped doing creative writing and reading to do what I thought was more normal and to be social and, always chasing that sense of normalcy my whole life. And then in college and shortly after college, I was just working all the time and trying to raise my little sister and take care of everything that was falling apart as my mom's alcoholism worsened. And so I only had this little shred of time for free time. And I looked around at everyone and I thought that there were certain social activities, certain things that you had to do to be normal. And so I felt like I had to do that. And I remember in my mid 20s, I had a friend who would always invite me to her house for her get togethers with her friends. And she was so nice to me, bless her heart, for trying to make me more social and be out and about more. And so I would go because when people invite you to do social things, I feel like you always should, or at least that's what all the books say to do and all the self-help blogs, and I didn't want to be rude either. So I would go and sit around for hours, sometimes beside a bonfire while her friends got drunk, or I would sit at a bowling alley and make polite conversation. And the whole time I would think, oh, I'm really not enjoying this. And I would go home and think, what is wrong with me? I should want to do these things. This is what people do. They're social together. They just relax and be with their fellow human beings. And so I would just feel weird and abnormal. And so when I was 26 and I hit this rock bottom point in my life as an ACOA and trying to fix my mom my whole life and take care of everybody and not take care of myself, I enrolled in a creative writing course at a local community college. And I loved writing as much as I did as a girl. And that inspired me to join some local writers groups. And I started going to workshops and events and joining organizations. And at that time, I was also learning a lot about alcoholism and addiction and what the heck had happened in my family. And I met so many inspiring and awesome ACOAs and families of those with substance abuse disorders and addictions. And I was quite social, actually, in this world that I was so interested in. But I actually was embarrassed to tell people how I was spending my free time. So I remember coworkers and family members asking about weekend plans and what I'd been up to, and I remember feeling embarrassed and not wanting to tell them that I was going to a writer's workshop or doing volunteer work or pro bono work for the children of alcoholics and families of alcoholics, this cause that I was so interested in, because I thought it was so different from what they do, and it was. And they would, when I did talk about those things, they acted like they didn't understand or just thought it was kind of strange that that's how I spent my time. And so I would always feel like they wanted me to say, "Oh, I'm going to a barbecue, or I'm going to sit around on a boat with some people, and these things that just sound like normal social activities. And so I have just always felt this pressure that I should be doing these more social things, and then having these flashes of panic like, oh yeah, I'm just going to end up like some hermit cat lady someday, you know? And so this is how things have always felt for me, and it's taken me 34 years to have this breakthrough that I'm so excited to share with you about. So, a few weeks ago, one of my friends invited me over to her home. She was having another get together with her friends, and I need to be more social and get out and about more. So, I canceled my plans to write alone that day, and I drove out to her house, and I went to the backyard and introduced myself to everyone, and I learned the rules of the lawn game they were playing, and I made polite conversation for 45 minutes. And then I just got this thought in my head, like, what am I doing? This is very nice. My friend is great. These people are very nice, but I would rather be doing something else. I have a very limited amount of time outside of work to do things I love to do. So I would rather be hiking or reading or writing or doing my pro bono stuff. I don't want to be here, and I don't need to be here. And it was so freeing and liberating to have this feeling like, no, this is the more normal thing to be doing on a weekend, hanging around a lake and meeting new people and everything. But that's not what I want to do. I want to do what I'm most interested in. So I'm going to go do that. And so I did, and I apologized to my friend, who was probably annoyed and frustrated, because it's very difficult to understand people who just do different things with their free time. And so I have had this greatly freeing feeling ever since then, that I don't have to worry about what everyone else is doing. I don't care what other people think about what I'm doing. All I know is that I have to trust my intuition and what's good for me about how I want to spend my time. I thought about how every time I actually gave time, precious time, to what I love to do and what I'm most interested in, I am pushed out of my comfort zone. I end up being quite social and meeting awesome people. So why is it that I continually limit the amount of time that I give to that, in lieu of pushing myself or even forcing myself to do things, social things, or surround myself with people who are very nice, but don't share the same interest as me or the same drive? It's just totally crazy when I think about it. So I am so happy to have made this discovery, this realization. It's a very key milestone in my ACOA journey, in my journey to create a better grown-up life. And so that's the plan, just to listen to my intuition, to do what I want to do, and I will be pushed out of my comfort zone, and I will be social. So I hope the same for you.